Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you, and welcome to season 4 of OneMicNite podcast. I can't believe it's been 4 seasons already. I want to give a big thank you to everybody who's been subscribing, following, watching the YouTube podcast, everything, sharing the episodes. And also, I want to thank all the guests that have been on over the last few years. In the last year, I did over 2,000 hours of podcasting, and I can't believe it. I must have had a lot to talk about. So I want to thank everybody for joining in and listening and subscribing and just everything. This season is not going to be anything less. So we took a little break and now we're back. We're going to now combine both podcasts, OneMicNite Talk, back with OneMicNite Podcast with Marcos Luis, and put it on the YouTube channel so you have one podcast on one listening platform for audio. So thank you, everybody who's on OneMicNite Talk. If you haven't switched over to OneMicNite Podcast, please do, because that's where all the episodes are going now with special editions of OneMicNite Talk. So without any further ado, we're going to start up with the Dr. Shane Mark Tull. He's the first guest again, the resident psychotherapist, and he's coming in right now. So sit back. Thank you for joining me for OneMicNite Podcast with Marcos Luis. Get ready. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of OneMicNite Podcast. This is OneMicNite Talk. I'm Marcos Luis. And of course, with us, we have our resident licensed psychotherapist, Shane Mark Tull. He's also the author of the book, The Mental Health Pandemic. Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's good to be back. Thank you. Thanks for having me back. I feel like we're regular recurrent acts.
We are, and that's the good thing about it. We have lots of people who are watching, and I'm so thankful. This is also season 4 of OneMicNite Podcast. We've been around for a couple of years now, so this is the first episode, and I want to thank everybody for sticking with me along the way, and all the guests that have come on and shared their stories and talks and conversation and inspirational journeys. So thank you all for watching and tuning in. So, wow, man. How's it going? We took a little break for a while. How you doing?
Yes. Today's just a day of expectancy because what we're waiting for to happen at 7 p.m. Standard Time to see this video that
Right.
we've just been breathing. I don't know if it's a sigh of relief or are we just holding our breath to see what the magnitude of this is, because all the buildup seems to believe that this is going to be horrific.
So what we're talking about, everybody who's watching and listening to the podcast, we're talking about the Tyre Nichols case that happened back on January 10th, where Tyre Nichols was stopped by 5 officers, brutally beaten, and later killed by the officers. The video hasn't been released, but the president and everyone else have called for this video to be released. So we are actually on the afternoon before the video release happens. What do you think about this whole thing? A Black man dies at the hands of police officers, and Black police officers at that, which is almost unprecedented. We hadn't been thinking about that part.
And that is my I think it sets me even more, because I think if these were white police officers, we're like, okay, that's an expectation. Sadly, that's the space we're in. But the fact that these are Black officers, these are Black men killing Black men. But I also want to touch on the psychology of these young Black men joining the police force.
Yes.
That has so much power. And it's very clear when they join the police force, it's a clear message to them. Are you Black or are you blue? As it relates to that blue wall of silence. So this behavior is indicative to what they subscribe to, clearly blue, and to perpetuate that kind of behavior in the time of post George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the other things that has happened, and the inhumanity that is exhibited here. And these are the chief of police, the DA, people in authority that have seen it, And the underlying theme that came out of it is the inhumanity of the despicable behavior. And these are black men beating black men, beating a black man like this. That's about us,
Right.
or to us, about how we treat each other.
Exactly.
The lack of empathy and care.
I want to hit you up with a couple of statistics because since this year has been the most killings by the police since
Mm-hmm.
2013. 2019 there were 1,097, 2020 1,152, 2021 1,011.45, and this year we are on the verge of something incredible. I think you hit on something that's very, very important: humanity, the humanity of it all. I think that people are, taking the power to do what they want to do and turn it into treating humans as if they were animals. It's disgusting.
Yes. And how do we speak to this in a way that is curative and comforting, and in a way that gives us hope that this will not happen again, that this will speak to our humanity, and that we will see each other as human beings. And so maybe this is, hopefully, it's our wake up call. Is it going to be the last one? I doubt it. But maybe something phenomenal will come out of this, where it will spark this conversation. Humanity, but more so humanity among black people, see each other, and that I think that inner rage we have within ourselves and how we perpetuate that or project that onto another black man.
Right.
And because we have this power, we can execute of barbaric behavior and think it's okay.
Absolutely.
It is not okay.
It's not okay. And I think the biggest thing too is, we can talk about it. It's still going to happen. It's happened since the whole institution of the police. That's what the police,
Mm-hmm.
and police was founded on, to for black people to be corralled
Correct.
and put in a position, where they're under control. But to see it done by five people of color is alarming. So where do we go from here? What kind of reform? People have been shouting reform for police for years, especially since 2020 with the George Floyd case. Police reform has been necessary. And then people see the dichotomy because, if they think that if you're taking money away from the police department, then the police are not going to protect you, or they're not going to, do their job. But what is their job? What is their job? Is to protect and serve.
It's to protect it. So, and
Right.
I think they use the whole defund the police as a calling slogan to induce fear in
Yes.
people. Basically, what they were saying, let's reimagine how we can funnel these dollars to prevention programs, to
Yes.
after school programs, to sport programs, and giving young people alternatives that they can engage in after school. You can invest these monies in the arts. Art is really powerful. It gives young people a way to express their frustration and have a sense of agency over themselves. So you take all this money and you just put it into combat in the community. Anything you declare war against will always stay. You're always going to be in a state of war.
Yes.
So we really think about, let's reimagine how we take care of community. And really, when
Absolutely.
we go back to community policing, these are aspects of police, of community police. Because let's be clear, no one wants, I want the police to be around. I want to be protected. I want to feel protected. But I also don't want to be a victim or any other black person or any human being to be a victim of police brutality.
Absolutely not.
And what really troubles me, I'm almost 100% sure moving forward as this case begin to unfold, we will see other people coming forward stating these because they're part of the Scorpio unit, like anti-drug, and that is fine. But it seems like they're overreaching their power, and they feel this sense of autonomy that really I can do what I want, or we can do what we want.
Absolutely.
They got us.
Which is exactly what you said a few minutes ago. The black wall and the blue wall. There is a blue wall. So at what point do you as an officer stand up and say, hey, to your fellow officer, stop it. We got to stop. This is too much. We're going too far. Or can you tell on another officer when they've done something that they shouldn't have done? That's a circle that's protected by each other within the force.
They're protected by each other. They're protected by the institution itself, because the police union is very strong. There are other forces at play that really is protects them. So you being a black officer in a blue environment, are you able to defend who you are and defend people that look like you when they are being abused? Or do you just buy into this fact that, hey, I'm a part of the True Brotherhood, we have to protect each other at every by any means necessary, and at the cost of people that look like me and you losing their lives?
Right.
I am convinced there'll be more cases like this from these same 5 black officers. It's just that this one was caught, highlighted, it's out there. But this is not the first time they've done this, clearly.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think as this case goes on, and once we see the video and more information comes out, with the trial, well, first of all, we have to say, we see, I guess we don't have to use the word alleged because there's a death in the case. So it's not alleged killing. But I do feel like there's more information, and there's going to be more cases that come up where you see that the brutality and that the authority was taken, more than it should have been, more force than necessary. That's
it's
going
the
to
culture.
Yeah,
I think that's the culture. I think from a PR perspective, the police organizations all through the country have been pushing social justice reform. They're doing trainings. But are they really getting it, or they just saying we're providing them with trainings, but are they integrating that a part of their basic training when they get into the academy, like have cultural sensitivity classes and come up with scenarios and how do you engage one community as opposed to the next community? Are you culturally competent? Are these things you know? Do you live in this community? Do you know anyone from this community? Because in New York City, as we know, most of the police officers lives in Long Island.
Right.
A lot of them are not part of our community.
Is any of this stuff preventative? So say for instance, I think we need to educate ourselves as people too, because I read here 32% of the cases killings are of people fleeing from the scene. So instead of fleeing, I'm not saying you take what the police gives you, but listen to what they have to say. If they arrest you, go through with the arrest, file the charges later. Take the name, take the badges, take the sergeant's name, all those things. You comply with everything that you need to do, and then you go back and you go to court and you fight it.
But that's an assumption, and that's the assumption if they approach you in a manner that you can communicate with them.
Right.
It's clear most times they approach you in a way that they hit you up, they push you up against a wall, or they throw you down, or they put you in handcuffs, which aggravates the person experiencing this.
Right.
If they're just a conversation where you can be left with them, and when you try that, they think you're a smartass.
Right.
So
well, I'm
that
not
may
saying that
even make it worse.
You're right, and I'm not saying that the inhumane treatment that they give to you is acceptable, but at some point you kind of have to accept it because the consequences could be death.
And we shouldn't have to.
And we shouldn't have to.
I like I shouldn't have to tell my son when the cops pull you over, keep your hand to the steering wheel. Yes, sir. No, sir. Follow instructions. Make sure you ain't got no weed in your car or you're not smelling like weed.
We
I
shouldn't
shouldn't have
have
to
to.
have that.
We shouldn't have
We
to.
shouldn't have to have those conversations, but
Absolutely not.
to save their lives, we have
Every black man has either had a run-in with the police or they've had that conversation, which is a painful conversation to have with your child.
to.
Every
Correct.
black man has had that,
Yes.
or has had it told to
To
them.
them, yes,
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah.
right.
So it's so where do we have this open conversation about respect and humanity for each other? They, I tell people I am pathologically committed to the mental well-being of black men. Why? Because it's so needed.
It is.
We need we need to support each other. We need to see and we need to provide spaces where we can go and articulate our feelings without judgment
Absolutely.
about what it is to coexist in this body that look
Absolutely.
like that look like you and I.
Right.
And I keep saying that surviving in our skin is a revolutionary act. Like, think about that. You get up, there's so many things that can happen to you. Not because you're human and life happens, but so many things that can happen to you just because you're a black
Right. Yeah.
man. And
Absolutely.
there's so many things that do happen to you. Those implicit things, those um, not so direct racist behavior. You go in elevator, or somebody step aside, or a woman holds her purse more, or you go in the store and they're walking behind you, and somebody's rude to you, and you're just like, okay. All of those things adds to our mental health, and it really impacts us. So I think every black man is probably suffering from PTSD, just
Absolutely.
from the experience of, and that's part of their lived experience
Lived
so far.
experience. And so I guess the question I have for you then is where do we start with that? Where do we, there's a certain fear that, like I said, we all have with the police. There's a
Mm-hmm.
certain fear. I know when I went to college, I was a freshman in the university, and I'm sitting in my dorm room and I'm doing what I do, and I get a knock on the door. It's the police department. It's the sheriff of the city. And yes, I will say the name, Evanston, Illinois, which has its own history of racial prejudice,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Evanston, Illinois. So I'm sitting there, and the police say, "Hey, you need to come down with us because we just looked through the freshman photo handbook, and the woman at the Kinko's down the block identified you as the person who just robbed Kinko's a little while ago." I was nowhere near that place. So the fear that ran through my body at that very moment, it doesn't matter if you're educated, doesn't matter if you have money,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you have anything. If
Yeah.
that lady had said, "Yes, that's him," what could have happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's trauma that affects me. That's something that I think about a lot.
So would that mean that trauma's still with you?
It's still with me.
It's still with you.
If she had
PTSD.
said, "Yes, that's him," where would I have gone then?
Yeah.
What would have happened then? You know?
So it's our daily fear.
Yeah.
So someone just have to say you look like, or we're coexisting in these spaces, in these states where people have license to carry their arms open,
Right.
carry guns openly, and someone can say, okay, well, I thought he was going to do this,
Yeah.
so I was in fear, so I
Right.
reacted.
Mm-hmm.
One more reason to be scared.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And
where do
how
we
do
start these conversations? Is here and engage in that broader space and really try to have the conversation from a place of wellness instead of pathology, because we know all the pathologies that affect us. We're clear about that. Now, what do we do to correct that stuff? How do we galvanize as a people, as a community, as men, and provide spaces where men could come and talk about this experience? And there are a lot of black men that have been stopped by the police, embarrassed, interrogated and all that stuff, and they've never told because of the shame.
Yeah. I got to tell you too, and I'm going to take it a little bit further too. So for those of you who are listening who are not in New York City, during the time of the 9/11 World Trade Center, the months after that, in the Village area and everywhere around the World Trade Center, they had police at every metro stop, almost, especially at the West 4th stop. There was not one time that I wasn't stopped to ask for a bag search while other people walked through, being a black male. Every single time. There's not one time that I wasn't singled out and asked to check my bag.
Yeah, and we go through that all the time. I've seen it in New York City. I've seen it in Cuba. Yeah. I was in Cuba hanging out with my friends, and the cops came by and started to corral all these young black that were students. And I'm like, this is Cuba.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was an eye opener. I've seen it in Cuba. I recently saw it in Paris. I took the train from Amsterdam to Paris. We're getting off, and my friend and I were the only two black people. They did not stop. Black men, they did not stop. I don't know. Maybe they didn't see us, or I don't know what it was. But all the young black men, the black and Arab looking men, they pulled over and checked your bags. I'm like, and it was so jarring because it reminds me that where we are, we have to be cognizant of our surrounding and our space and be always vigilant to have that experience.
Absolutely.
To prepare yourself for that experience.
Right.
And that just damning. It's hurtful. And I think if we're able to give voice to that and use language, it will help us heal from those experiences because it does something. It does something to your body. Every time I have to encounter a police officer, even if it's not the best of terms, my body have a different response.
Yes, for sure.
If I go to court, even if I'm going to court as an expert witness, or you're let into a different door and you through a different way, still, I feel the message you receive is that we're watching you.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's have this conversation here. Let's invite other black men, black and brown men to join this conversation, because this could be an opportunity for us to change, to heal collectively as well as to inform police organizations. This is what we experience through you. Yes. Let us help you reimagine what we need to experience moving forward. We can educate you, we can inform you. This is the data, this is the statistic, but I want us to have interactional dynamic. I want us to meet in a space where you get to see me, you get not as a her, but you get to see me as a human being just like you. And that when you have on that uniform, what that represents, and when I encounter you, what I feel, if you can merge those two things, I think that's where humanity meets. Absolutely. That's where compassion meets. And these things will not happen. To say, okay, well, we give these, a workshop on mental health or a workshop on diversity or a workshop on cultural competence, it's not enough. You have to have weekly, monthly programs where the community engages with your police force.
Yes.
Where you go to those community meetings, you go out and meet with the community leaders, you meet with the gang leaders, church leaders. You want to form a collective organization with the community that they feel safer, they feel that you're
bond. Yes,
right, and they feel that your presence here is to protect them, not to demonize them or victimize them.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna maybe I'll work on if everybody listening and watching would like to have maybe a panel of men speaking with
Mm-hmm.
police officers. Maybe I can get some. If you know any police officers that would be willing to speak with a couple of Black men and men of color on the program, please inbox me. They don't have to, we can put a block over their face if they don't,
Yeah,
want to be seen, but we definitely need to open a conversation. And I think this would be a great platform for us to open that conversation
correct.
and learn more about the community and the people that serve us in our community. So we are hoping the best for Tyre Nichols and his family. We'll be waiting for the verdict, and we hope that there's no unrest,
Yes.
in any of the cities in Memphis. I know a lot of the cities are prepared for
Yes.
some things to happen, but we do hope that there is a change because this definitely is going to open up conversation, more conversation, and how the police department and people of authority can better serve our community. Because if they forget, we are the ones paying their salary. You're working
And
for
we
us.
and we also want to appeal to people to protest in peace.
Please protest in peace.
Let your voices be heard, show up in numbers, but do not destroy our community.
Which then brings me also to this is where you vote for your council people. This is where
Yes.
you vote for your Congress people. These are the ones
Correct.
who are enacting the laws. It's not the president at the federal level
Correct.
only. It
Correct.
is the people who are in your community that can make the change in your community. It also means that we need to be a part of the census when they're sending out the census. So the
Mm-hmm.
government knows how to serve our community better, so we can get the money for the YMCA, so we can get the money for the community
Correct.
organizations. This is important. Black men, we need you to step up. The Black women are running everything, and we need to be
And
working hand in hand.
the black women are saving democracy every day. We need to step up, and just not just step up, but to get involved.
Get involved.
Get involved. We need
Get
to get
involved with your
involved in
kids,
your kids,
the community.
parent association, your community organization, even if it's just to be an elected worker.
Yes.
Get involved.
Get
That's where it
involved.
starts.
Your voice counts. Your voice counts.
Our voice matters.
It definitely matters. I think we should leave them on that note.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining me again for OneMicNite. As I said, OneMicNite podcast is now going to host OneMicNite Talk, special occasions, and we'll still have interviews with artists and special people along the way. Please tell us how we can get in touch with you outside of here.
Clinical psychotherapy, toe.cpc@gmail.com.
All the information will be down in the notes. Please make sure you share, you like,
and subscribe,
and comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel because we got a big thing going on. Also, make sure you check out my new store. As I said before, it's called Azules En. It's the best in home decor. We have a sale going on right now, so please just check it out. The link will be in the bio.
Send me the link.
I definitely will.
I would like that. Cool.
Definitely. Thank you guys all for joining me for OneMicNite podcast. And remember, be inspired by others, but most importantly, be inspired by yourself. I'm Marcos Luis. See you next time. We're out. Part of the episode was recorded yesterday prior to the video being released for the Tyre Nichols case. So I wanted to update you with what actually happened following the release of the video. So more protests happened after the release of the video in a lot of the major cities around the U.S. And more protests are scheduled today and the violent arrest of Tyre Nichols and death. Protesters are planning to march in a rally in different cities, including Memphis, Boston, Pittsburgh, Salt Lake City, and Georgia. Now, the demonstrations on Friday shut down the Interstate 55, which is located in downtown Memphis. No arrests stemming from them, no violence. It was a peaceful demonstration, as many people asked for, including the mother of Tyre Nichols, President Biden, and Attorney Crump. In New York, a little bit of violence broke out between several protesters and officers demonstrating in the crowd in Times Squares. There was some video posted to social media, and you could see some people jumping on hoods of cars and things like that with the New York Police Department, but was soonly de-escalated. What I do want to say mostly is the special unit that was assigned to the Tyre Nichols case is called Scorpion. And oddly enough, the Scorpion unit the acronym stands for Street Crime Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhood. Now, whether or not they live up to what's been happening, I'm not sure. I do know that reports said that between the fall of 2021 and 2022, that the Scorpions did produce 566 arrests in Memphis, along with 250 weapons that they got. So, they were functioning pretty well then, but in the last year or so, we've now heard reports that there were other incidents where this particular unit of 5 police officers were involved with other people in the neighborhood that were just pretty much minding their own business and harassed wrongly in some wrongdoings. Several complaints were made. I saw an interview with one gentleman who actually called the unit prior to this Tyre Nichols case, said that he made a couple of complaints or tried to make complaints. He showed his phone log where he called the internal affairs and made a complaint, and nothing happened. And so we have to think that, had they taken action then, would this actually have taken place with this brutal beating and death? This is a serious matter, and what we do with this information going forward remains to be seen. I think since 2020 and the George Floyd case, excuse me, as long as I can remember, people have been crying out, even going back to the Rodney King incidents, people have been crying out for better protection against the police officers, those very individuals who are supposed to be serving and protecting us. But the police brutality continues to go on. We've seen it with Eric Gardner. We've seen it with several people, and those are only the cases that we know about. For years, New York City, where I live, has had the stop and frisk. So we don't even take that into account. How many police officers have taken advantage of people in the neighborhood, and violated their own civil liberties. So I say this to you, what are we to do? How do we increase awareness? And as we said in the last segment, I hope that, some police officers would like to come to this platform and maybe speak to the community. I want to build a better relationship with the people of color in this city, and that spectrum goes all over. It's not just Black people, although we're talking about Black people in this particular instance, but brown people, Asian, everyone across the board. How do we bring the police community to actually serve? Now, we're not saying that all police officers are bad, and it's definitely not a color issue. It's not white, although we've seen more instances where there have been, brutality from non-white police officers. Non-color police of color incidents against people of color. And in this case, it's the other way around. So is it actually the police uniform and the power that gives you and the authority that gives you that makes a problem in the community? I'd like to know your feedback, and please inbox me at Marcos Luis, MarcosLuis, and follow the show at OneMicNite. OneMicNite is spelled OneMicNite. Thank you guys all for joining me. This is a joint episode with 2 segments, and I hope we increase the conversation here, and hopefully we can come up with some solutions in the near future to, help bring everybody together and help the public feel protected. So thank you for joining me for OneMicNite. We'll see you next time. Bye.